it's no surprise that I'm not a fan of Microsoft. I generally don't like what they do, what they stand for, or just the fact that their products kind of suck. Dirty, crusty butthole. Oh crap, I'm only in the first 15 seconds of the video. Okay, moving on. Right, not a fan of Microsoft, don't like what they do, not a fan of their, the way they go heavily on subscriptions, and also the fact that unfortunately Xbox also falls under Microsoft. Now with that being said, however, Microsoft has definitely taken in AI very heavily in the form of Copilot, and now it seems like Xbox is now being forced down that exact same path. But I also think that the naming of this article is actually quite interesting, or with the title of it, where it said Microsoft's Xbox AI era starts with a model that can generate gameplay. That whole Microsoft putting more of a stranglehold over Xbox, given that since the Activision acquisition, they just somehow cannot be, seemingly left alone, and so Microsoft has to step in with all the decisions that it seems like people like Phil have to make. But we're going to leave that for another video for later on, depending on how things go. But let's actually talk about generating gameplay using AI. And I'm going to be completely honest, I'm not going to even pretend to like the idea of using AI in games, because I've seen a lot of like AI not safe for work images, and nothing makes you more flaccid than thinking, man, this would have been 100 times better if it was actually drawn by another person, because everything just seems homogeneous when you compare something that's AI generated with something else that's AI generated, and then you can just see it. You can see the soullessness in both the imagery and the ideations that you're seeing. It just isn't the same as someone else drawing it. But we're going to move from that to actually talking about what's here in this article. So Microsoft's new Muse AI model could help Xbox developers create parts of games in the future, and the company says it's even exploring the potential of using it to preserve classic games and optimize them for modern hardware. And I sat there for a second and I thought to myself, hold on, haven't I heard this exact same thing before? Not heard, but rather experienced, because exploring the potential of using it to preserve classic games and optimize them for modern hardware. Don't we have a recent incident involving such a thing? And then I remembered the GTA Defective Edition. So for those of you guys that don't know, GTA, absolutely incredible franchise, got a release called the Definitive Edition. Now the thing about the Definitive Edition on GTA is that it features GTA 3, let's go back to 1977, that should be far back enough, view page, yep. So, the basic idea is that it's a package of Vice City, GTA 3, and San Andreas. But the thing is that when it comes to GTA's, the Definitive Edition, unfortunately, the game looked quite ugly. There was this increase, this like it completely removed the fog from the games, making the map seem smaller. The character models looked a lot like they were made out of jelly rather than, the flatter textures which from the PS2, which looks so much better in comparison. A lot of the visual gags from some of the shops were named differently and therefore just did not make any sense anymore. Pretty much all of this was done through AI upscaling. And AI, did I just say AI upscaling? Yes, I did, because it was pretty much taking the mobile ports of these games, putting them through an AI upscaling filter, if you will, and then spitting it out on consoles instead, charging exorbitant amounts of money, and people were not a fan of anything that was going on in this entire space. And it's just absolutely unfortunate to see, because like I said, even if some of these games aren't the best, I'm looking at you, GTA 3, I know you look a lot better than 2, but you're not the favorite of the lot. Normally people prefer either Vice City for the 80s, the neon lights, Venice Beach, whatever have you, or people are looking at something like San Andreas, which people generally tend to have more rose tinted glasses for. Either of those two are the ones you'd be looking at, not necessarily 3, but it doesn't change the fact that AI upscaling was used, and it was used so incredibly poorly due to it originally being a mobile port of the game that was then upscaled to try and make it look better, rather than taking the original and trying to push that forward. That being said, nothing beats the original when it comes to GTA, especially when it comes to the audio, but again, main thing I'm talking about here is the AI upscaling. You can kind of just ignore the rest if you want to. And it's really, really unfortunate to see that Xbox is going down this path, but so let's talk about it. So, Microsoft Research created Muse, a first of its kind AI model that can generate game environments based on visuals or player-controlled actions. It understands a 3D game world and game physics and can react to how people play a game. So basically the idea is it's going to try and randomly create elements of a game based on what already exists. And so they try and show an example here, but obviously it's just, I don't know. It looks like a game that's being played. That's all I'm willing to kind of say with this GIF here. Yeah, I don't know, man. Okay, so this was supposed to be Bleeding Edge. Interesting. Wait, hold on. Is Bleeding Edge even still going? I thought Bleeding Edge was shut down because it was an online-only game. But maybe the idea is that the AI is creating, like, you know, CPUs and stuff like that to fight against. So that online-only games aren't always going to be dead and service could remain up. But that I don't think that that's actually really even the case, because I feel like if not enough people are playing the game, then they're even less likely to play with bots. I don't know, it's just something to kind of think about. But the most interesting thing is this is actually being pushed by Phil Spencer specifically, which god damn it, man, why so he says a lot of different things here. So, Microsoft is now exploring how Muse can improve classic games and bring them to modern hardware. As we saw with the GTA, the Defective Edition example, it's clear that, you know, that is not ideal and in fact kind of hurts the game's quality, especially the original. So he says, you could imagine a world where from gameplay data and videos that a model could learn old games and make them really portable to any platform where these models could run, says Microsoft Gaming CEO Phil Spencer. We've talked about game preservation as an activity for us, and these models and their ability to learn completely how to play a game plays without the necessity of the original engine running on the original hardware opens up a ton of opportunities. And while that seems like a good idea, that you don't need the original hardware to play the original game, you're still giving us a significantly lower quality product as a result of trying to bring something together. You are trying to make a tough task easier by watering down the quality of the product as a whole, and that right there is kind of what I'm not a fan of. Like we said with the GTA Definitive Edition example, which I just cannot begin to reiterate enough. The models looked a lot more awful. The size of the map seemed a lot smaller as a result of there not being, you know, fog, for example, in some of the games. There's just a lot going on that really just, again, doesn't add up here to what Phil is saying. And the fact that he's talking more so about, hey, if your device can run the models, it can actually play the game. But the thing is that these models require a decent amount of power to actually run. And so, say for example, if you're playing something on your phone, that might not necessarily be strong enough depending on what kind of device you're running. And I mean, I assume if you're a gamer or more tech savvy, you're going to have a more powerful device. Like for myself, I have the Asus ROG Phone 7 Ultimate, which I've had for the past year and a half. Like, that game allows me to run mobile games at, like, you know, 60 FPS, or if I'm emulating games, you know, it really does run those games fairly well, especially PS2 games on this thing. So I feel like it might be able to run those models, but the problem is we kind of don't know, again, what the end product is going to look like. But if we take apart what we've seen in the past, again, talking about GTA, it's clear to see as pretty much light and day that it's going to be a lesser than product, and it's watering down the quality. Why do we love those games from the past is mostly because the quality of those games are incredibly high, at least not to like modern day standards necessarily, but they're high enough to where they've, weathered the passage of time in order to remain relevant even now. And that's why people talk about these games just as I do when I play old games and talk about them, because I love just how these old games play, because they are more quality than what we're getting nowadays. At least that's how I kind of feel about the whole thing. So let's actually kind of round this off with the final bit, which is that there's a lot of fear from game developers and studios about how AI can affect the creative process of making games, particularly at a time when barely a week goes by without layoffs in the gaming industry. A recent report revealed 1 in 10 game developers lost their jobs in 2024 alone, and that's 10% of the industry. So yes, how can we not talk about AI without talking about the human cost that is associated with actually making games? Because make no mistake, there is always going to be that looming fear that potentially anyone could lose their job at any time, just because an executive made the decision to say that, hey, why on earth would we need people when we've got AI doing the work? So we're just gonna let these people go, because large companies save money, they make more money, and ultimately at the end of the day, it makes their accounting sheets, their sheets on the accountant's table look a lot better significantly, and so people are going to like that when they do their shareholder meetings. So I really did kind of want to bring that forward, if I'm being completely honest. And this final sentence here, final couple of sentences, really doesn't add much in the way of positivity, where it says here, "We don't intend to use this technology for the creation of content," says Ninja Theory studio head Dom Matthews. I think this is an interesting aspect for us that's exciting, is how we use technology like this to make the process of making games quicker and easier for our talented team, so that they can really focus on the thing that's really special about games, the human creativity. So yeah, with all that being said, let me know what you guys think about all of this in the comments below. Like the video if you liked it, subscribe to the channel. I'm aiming for 500 subs by the end of the year, and with all that being said, I do upload every day, so I'll see you guys tomorrow.